Jake Morrison walked into the big round room where all the alien leaders sat waiting. The room was huge and made of some kind of blue metal that seemed to glow from inside. He had been Earth's voice to these creatures for 3 long years. 3 years of talking, fighting, and watching humans die for people who were not even human. The aliens all looked different from each other. Some looked like big crystals that could talk. Others were like floating clouds of light. The bug-like ones clicked and buzzed when they spoke. The old ones with wrinkled skin just stared with their big black eyes. Jake had learned to read their faces, even the weird ones. Today felt different, though. The air in the room was thick with something bad. Jake could feel it in his bones. The aliens were scared of something, and that something was humans. Chancellor HFY stood up from his chair. He was one of the crystal people, and when light hit him just right, he threw rainbows on the walls. But today his light was dim and cold. "Ambassador Morrison," he said in his voice that sounded like breaking glass. "We have called this meeting for a very important reason." Jake stood straight and tall. He wore his best blue suit, the one with Earth's flag on the chest. Behind him, through the big windows, he could see space filled with ships. Human ships, ships that had fought and bled and died to keep these aliens safe. "The Council has made a decision," HFY continued. "Your people have become too strong, too dangerous. We fear what humans might do with all this power." Jake felt his heart start beating faster. He had been afraid this day would come. For months he had heard whispers in the halls. The aliens were getting scared, not of the monsters that attacked their worlds, but of the humans who saved them from those monsters. "What exactly are you saying?" Jake asked, keeping his voice calm and steady. The floating light creature, called a Zephyrian, spoke next. Her voice was like wind through leaves. "We require humans to give up half of all your warships. You must also let us change your people, make you less aggressive." Jake almost laughed, but it would not have been a happy laugh. "You want us to cut our fleet in half? And let you mess with our bodies?" "It is not a request," said one of the bug creatures. His voice clicked and buzzed. "It is what must happen." "For peace of peace," Jake said, and this time he could not keep the anger out of his voice. "We have been fighting your wars for 3 years. Human blood has been spilled on dozens of worlds. Human families have lost sons and daughters protecting your people. And you call us dangerous?" The old creature with black eyes spoke for the first time. His voice was soft but felt heavy. "We have seen what humans can do in war. You are too good at killing, too good at fighting. It scares us." Jake looked around the room at all of them. These creatures had lived for thousands of years. They had built cities among the stars. They had created wonders that humans could barely understand. But they were afraid. Afraid of humans who had only been in space for a few hundred years. "How long do we have to decide?" Jake asked. 30 days, HFY said. 30 days to accept our terms or face the consequences. And what consequences are those? Complete separation from the galactic community. No trade. No communication, no help. You will be alone. Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. These aliens were serious. They really wanted to cut humans down to size or throw them away completely. In space above them, Captain Lisa Brooks sat on the bridge of her ship. The New York was one of the biggest human ships ever built. It was covered in weapons and armor, built to fight the terrible creatures that came from the dark spaces between stars. Lisa watched the meeting through her ship's cameras. She could see Jake down there, standing alone against all those aliens. She knew what they were asking. Word had already spread through the human fleet. The aliens wanted to make humans weak. "Captain," said her second in command, a woman named Beth Taylor. "We're getting messages from other ships. They want to know what we should do." Lisa kept watching Jake. He was a good man, a brave man, but he was just one human against an entire galaxy of aliens who had decided they did not want humans around anymore. "Tell all ships to stand ready," Lisa said. "But don't do anything yet. Let's see how this plays out." Down in the meeting room, Jake was thinking hard. He thought about all the humans who had died fighting alien wars. He thought about the families back on Earth who were proud of their children serving in the galactic fleet. He thought about the young men and women who signed up to explore the stars and ended up fighting monsters instead. "I need to talk to my people," Jake said finally. "You have 30 days, HFY repeated. "Use them wisely." Jake turned and walked out of the room. His shoes clicked on the metal floor. Behind him, he could hear the aliens starting to talk among themselves in their strange languages. They thought they had humans trapped. They thought humans would have to choose between being cut down or being thrown out. They were wrong. Jake got back to his ship and immediately sent a message to Earth. Then he sent another message to every human commander in the galaxy. The message was short and simple. They want to break us or banish us. Neither is acceptable. Prepare for Operation Exodus. Within hours, every human ship captain, every human commander, every human leader in space got the same message. The aliens had made their choice. Now it was time for humans to make theirs. The 30 days started counting down, but Jake already knew what the answer would be. Humans had fought too hard and sacrificed too much to let fear make them weak. If the aliens wanted them gone, then humans would leave. But they would leave on their own terms. The Great Withdrawal was about to begin. 2 weeks had passed since the aliens gave humans their ultimatum. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you told humans to go away. Admiral Kate Sullivan stood in the command center above Earth, looking at screens filled with moving dots. Each dot was a human ship, station, or base somewhere in the galaxy, and every single one of them was moving toward home. "Status report," Kate said to her aide, a young man named Bobby Chen. 90% of our forces are already moving," Bobby said, reading from his tablet. "The rest will be gone within 48 hours, Kate nodded. She had been planning this for months, ever since the rumors started about the aliens getting nervous about human power. She had hoped it would never be needed, but here they were. Operation Exodus was the biggest movement of people and ships in human history. Every human in alien space was coming home. Soldiers, traders, scientists, diplomats, miners, builders, everyone. Captain Nicole Davis was leading one of the last convoys out of the far rim territories. Her ship, the Denver, was surrounded by dozens of other human vessels. Behind them, alien colonies watched in growing panic. "Captain," her communications officer said, "we're getting messages from the Kalari mining station. They're begging us to stay." Nicole looked at the messages scrolling across her screen. The bug-like Kalari were offering double pay, triple pay, anything to keep human security forces at their mining operations. Without human protection, the miners were sitting ducks for pirate attacks. "Tell them our contract is terminated," Nicole said. "They wanted us gone. We're granting their wish." The same scene was playing out across the galaxy. Human security companies were walking away from their contracts. Human traders were canceling deals that had run for decades. Human engineers were shutting down the systems they had built and maintained. Dr. Sam Johnson was packing up his laboratory on Kepler Prime. He had spent 15 years there, working with alien scientists to understand the strange creatures that lived in the deep parts of space. His research had saved millions of lives. Now he was throwing it all away. "Dr. Johnson," said his Threnody research partner, "a creature that looked like an old tree with eyes. Surely you do not mean to destroy all our work." Sam looked at the alien he had worked beside for so many years. They had been friends, or as close to friends as a human and a tree creature could be. But friendship did not matter now. "You voted to kick us out," Sam said, deleting files from his computer. "This research belongs to humans. We're taking it with us, but the knowledge we could share should have been thought about before you decided we were too dangerous to exist as equals," Sam said. He finished wiping his computers and walked out. Behind him, years of research vanished into electronic smoke. The same thing was happening everywhere. Every piece of human technology, every innovation, every system that humans had built or improved was being shut down or taken away. The aliens had not realized how much they depended on human technology. Human ships were faster and more reliable than anything else in the galaxy. Human weapons were more effective. Human computers were smarter. Human engineers had been fixing alien problems for decades. Now it was all going away. Commander Ryan Foster was overseeing the shutdown of the Joint Defense Network that protected the inner worlds. The network had been his baby, a system that let human and alien forces work together to stop attacks before they happened. "Sir," said one of his technicians, "the aliens are asking us to leave the system running." Ryan almost smiled. "Tell them they're welcome to try running it themselves. Good luck figuring out the password." The defense network went dark. Across dozens of worlds, warning systems stopped working. Communication links went silent. The early warning system that had protected the galaxy for 3 years just died. But the humans were not just taking their technology. They were taking their knowledge too. Captain Tony Morales commanded a research vessel that had been mapping safe routes through dangerous parts of space. The star charts his ship had made were used by every trading company in the galaxy. "Delete everything," he told his navigation officer. "Star charts, safe routes, hazard warnings, all of it. Sir, without these charts, civilian ships will get lost. Some might die." "Then they should have thought about that before they tried to get rid of us," Tony said. The charts vanished. Suddenly, large parts of the galaxy became dangerous again for anyone who was not human. Back on Earth, President Helen Carter was getting reports from all over human space. The withdrawal was going perfectly. Every human was coming home, and they were taking everything valuable with them. The aliens are starting to panic, her advisor said. We're getting messages from colony governors, trade officials, even some military commanders. They want to negotiate. Too late for that, Helen said. They made their choice. Now they get to live with it. The first signs of real trouble started showing up within days. Without human security forces, pirate attacks increased by 300%. Without human engineers, critical systems started breaking down on dozens of worlds. Without human star charts, trade ships started getting lost or running into dangers they did not know about. The Void Swarm was watching too. These terrible creatures lived in the empty spaces between stars. They attacked ships and colonies, eating everything they could find. For 3 years, human forces had been the main defense against these monsters. Now the humans were gone. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez was monitoring alien communications from her patrol ship near Earth. The messages were getting more desperate every day. Listen to this one, she told her captain. It's from a Zephyrian colony ship. They're asking for human escort through the debris fields. Her captain, a woman named Carol White, shook her head. They'll have to find their own way. We're not their protectors anymore. The colony ship tried to make the journey alone. It never reached its destination. As the weeks passed, the true cost of losing humans became clear. The aliens had built their modern civilization on human strength, human innovation, and human protection. Without humans, everything started falling apart. But the humans did not care anymore. They were home, safe in their own space, watching the galaxy burn on their new screens. The aliens had wanted humans gone because they were too dangerous. Now they were learning what real danger looked like. And it was coming for them in the dark between the stars, where no human ships would come to save them. The Great Withdrawal was complete. Now came the silence. 5 months had passed since the last human ship left alien space. The galaxy had become a much darker and more dangerous place. Ambassador Peter Clark sat in his office on Earth's moon, looking at a screen full of messages. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all from the aliens, all begging for humans to come back. But humans were not answering. Peter had been ordered to cut all communication with the Alien Council. No messages in, no messages out. Earth had gone completely silent as far as the galaxy was concerned. The humans were still there, still watching, but they were not talking to anyone. "Sir," said his assistant, a young woman named Karen Davis, "we're getting another emergency transmission from the Rigel system." The Void Swarm hit them hard. Peter looked at the message. Rigel 7 was gone. 2 billion Kolari had been killed in 3 days. The survivors were screaming for human help, offering anything, everything if humans would just come back. Peter deleted the message without reading it all. The Void Swarm had been busy since humans left. These horrible creatures seemed to know that their greatest enemies were gone. They were attacking more often, in bigger groups, and with new tactics that the aliens could not figure out. Lieutenant Commander Amy Rodriguez was patrolling the edge of Earth's solar system when she picked up alien military transmissions. She was not supposed to listen to them, but she was curious about how badly things were going. What she heard made her feel sick and satisfied at the same time. "This is Admiral Ketver of the 4th Fleet," came a voice that sounded like grinding metal. "We are requesting immediate reinforcement at Proxima. The swarm has broken through our defenses. Repeat, Proxima Colony is falling." Amy switched to another channel. This one was even worse. All ships, this is Commander Zeldan. We have lost contact with the outer ring stations. Presumed destroyed. The swarm is using new attack patterns we have never seen before." Amy listened for hours. Every message was the same. The aliens were losing badly. Their fleets were being destroyed. Their colonies were being eaten, and they had no idea how to fight back. The problem was simple. Humans had been fighting the Void Swarm for years. They had learned how these creatures thought, how they moved, how they attacked. Human tactics were built around being unpredictable, aggressive, and fast. The aliens fought like they always had, carefully, slowly, following old rules and patterns. The swarm had figured out their tactics in weeks. Captain Tony Morales was reading intelligence reports in his ready room aboard his ship. Even though humans were not officially involved anymore, they were still watching what happened in the galaxy. "The numbers are incredible," he told his first officer, a man named Dan Murphy. "The Kolari have lost 30% of their worlds. The Zephyrians are retreating to their core systems. The Threnodi are trying to build copies of our weapons, but they don't understand how they work. Dan shook his head. How many times did we tell them the swarm learns fast? They need to keep changing tactics, keep the creatures guessing, but they're too set in their ways. Tony pulled up a tactical display showing swarm movements across the galaxy. Red dots marked attacks, yellow dots showed swarm groups moving, and blue dots showed what was left of alien defenses. There was a lot more red than blue. Look at this, Tony said, pointing at the screen. The swarm is using human tactics against them. Fast strikes, hit-and-run attacks, targeting supply lines instead of main fleets. The creatures learned from fighting us, and now they're using our own methods. The irony was bitter. Humans had been kicked out for being too good at war. Now the swarm was using human-style warfare to destroy the aliens who had banished their teachers. On Earth, President Helen Carter was meeting with her military advisors. General Chris Patterson, head of Earth Defense Forces, was showing her the latest reports from alien space. It's a complete disaster, Chris said. They've lost more ships in 5 months than they lost in the previous 5 years. Without our early warning networks, the swarm is hitting them wherever they want. Any word from their leaders? Helen asked, daily, sometimes hourly. They're offering us everything. Full membership in their council, expanded territory rights, complete military autonomy. Some are even offering to serve under human command. Helen looked out the window at Earth's blue skies. Her world was safe, protected by the finest military in the galaxy. But out there, entire civilizations were dying because they had been too afraid of human strength. What do you think, General? Should we help them? Chris was quiet for a long moment. They made their choice, Madam President. They called us too dangerous for peace. They wanted us gone. Maybe it's time they learned what real danger looks like. The silence from Earth was driving the aliens crazy. They had tried everything, sending gifts, offering bribes, even threatening to attack human space if humans did not help. But Earth stayed quiet. Captain Steve Nelson was commanding a destroyer on the far edge of the solar system when his sensors picked up something interesting. A massive swarm fleet was moving toward the last major alien stronghold at Andromeda Station. Sir, his tactical officer said, if that swarm force hits Andromeda, it will be the end of organized alien resistance. They won't have anywhere left to run. Steve watched the sensor readings. The swarm fleet was huge, bigger than anything he had ever seen. It would reach Andromeda in 2 weeks. Should we warn them? His officer asked. Steve thought about it. Warning the aliens would break Earth's silence, but letting them get completely destroyed might be going too far. In the end, he decided to stay quiet. The aliens had made their choice months ago. Now they would face the consequences. 2 weeks later, the swarm hit Andromeda Station with everything they had. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it was over, the greatest alien military base in the galaxy was gone. 3 million soldiers from a dozen species had died without ever knowing the attack was coming. The survivors sent one final message toward Earth. It was not a request for help or an offer to negotiate. It was just 3 words repeated over and over. We were wrong. We were wrong. We were wrong. But Earth stayed silent and the galaxy continued burning while humans watched from their safe corner of space. The aliens had wanted peace without humans. Now they were learning what that kind of peace really meant. It meant the silence of death creeping closer with every passing day. The Void Swarm's final attack came without warning, hitting 17 star systems at the same time. Admiral Marcus Webb sat in his command ship hidden deep in Earth's asteroid belt, watching the galaxy die on his screens. The tactical display showed red dots everywhere, swarm forces tearing through what was left of alien civilization like fire through dry grass. Status report, Marcus said to his intelligence officer. Rachel Morgan, it's over, Rachel said quietly. The swarm hit them everywhere at once. The aliens had no idea it was coming. Their early warning systems have been dead for months. Marcus nodded grimly. The early warning systems had been built by humans, maintained by humans, and powered by human technology. When humans left, those systems died. The aliens had tried to rebuild them. But they never understood how the technology really worked. Now they were paying for that ignorance with their lives. The Battle of Centauri Prime was supposed to last for weeks. The aliens had built massive defenses around their second most important world. They had 3 fleets protecting it, thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. It fell in 6 hours. Captain Lisa Brooks watched the battle from her ship orbiting Earth. She had fought at Centauri before, back when humans were still protecting alien worlds. She knew every defense, every strong point, every way to hold that system. They're making every mistake in the book, she told her tactical officer Beth Taylor. Look at this. They're bunching their ships together instead of spreading them out. The swarm is just tearing through them. Beth studied the battle reports flowing in from long-range sensors. Without our combat doctrines, they're fighting like it's still the old days. But the swarm has learned from fighting us. They're using hit-and-run tactics targeting command ships, disrupting communications. Exactly what we taught them not to do, Lisa said bitterly. The aliens were fighting the way they always had, carefully, predictably, following ancient military traditions, but the swarm had spent 3 years learning to fight humans. It had adapted to face unpredictable, aggressive, fast-moving enemies. Now it was using those lessons against slow, predictable aliens who could not adapt fast. Enough Chancellor Vexhi's homeworld was burning. The crystal cities that had housed the Galactic Council for 1,000 years were cracking under bioacidic bombardment from swarm creatures. Vexhi himself was in a bunker deep underground, sending desperate messages to anyone who would listen, but mostly, he was sending them to Earth. Human friends, his latest message began. We know we made mistakes. We know we were wrong to fear you. Please, if there is any mercy in your hearts, help us. Our world is dying. Our children are dying. We will give you anything, everything, if you will just come back. The message, like all the others, disappeared into the silence around Earth. In his bunker, Vexhi was not alone. The surviving leaders of the Galactic Council were there with him, what was left of them. 12 species out of the original 43. The rest were gone, consumed by the swarm or scattered to the dark corners of space. We have to try again, said Prime Minister Kithara of the Zephyrians. Her energy form was dim and flickering, like a candle in the wind. The humans must have some compassion left. Why should they? Asked Commander Theclon of the Kalari. Half of his insect body was covered in bandages from a recent battle. We cast them out when they were our greatest protectors. We called them too dangerous when they were the only thing standing between us and extinction. Old General Mordan of the Threnodi spoke slowly, his tree-like limbs creaking with age. We have one choice left. Complete surrender. Total submission to human demands. The others looked at him in shock. You mean give them control of everything? Kethara whispered. What everything? Mordan asked sadly. Look around you. The swarm has taken most of our worlds. Our fleets are broken. Our people are dead or dying. What exactly do we have left to give them control of? Above them, the crystal spires of Vexhi's capital city continued to crack and fall as swarm creatures poured acid onto everything they could not eat. On Earth, President Helen Carter was meeting with her cabinet in the underground situation room. The walls were lined with screens showing the destruction across the galaxy. The intelligence is clear, said General Chris Patterson. This is the endgame. The swarm is finishing off organized alien resistance. Within weeks, maybe days, there won't be any major alien forces left. What about survivors? Asked Secretary of Defense Maria Lopez. Scattered groups hiding in deep space. Maybe some colonies in the outer reaches, but nothing that could threaten the swarm. Or us, for that matter. Helen looked at the screens showing burning worlds and dying fleets. Part of her felt satisfaction. The aliens had brought this on themselves. But part of her felt sick watching entire civilizations die. Recommendations? We wait, said Admiral Kate Sullivan, who had joined the meeting by video link from her command station. Let them finish destroying each other. Then we decide what kind of galaxy we want to inherit. Captain Steve Nelson was patrolling the outer edge of the solar system when his sensors picked up massive movement in deep space. The swarm was consolidating its forces, preparing for what looked like a final push against the remaining alien strongholds. Sir, his communications officer said, we're detecting some kind of transmission from the swarm fleet. It's not directed at us, but we can intercept it, put it through. The sound that came through the speakers was not language, not as humans understood it. It was more like music. If music could be made of hunger and death and the screaming of consumed worlds. But somehow Steve understood part of it. The swarm was singing about victory, about the end of resistance, about a galaxy finally clean of those who would oppose them. Sir, the officer said quietly, there's something else. We're detecting human technology signatures in that fleet. Steve felt cold dread creep into his stomach. What kind of signatures? Weapon systems, sir. Engine modifications. The swarm has been studying our technology from the wreckage of alien ships. They're incorporating it into their own forces. Steve stared at the tactical display. The creatures that had learned to fight like humans were now building like humans too. They were taking the best of human military technology and making it part of themselves. Get me Admiral Webb, Steve said. Priority 1. When the connection went through, Steve delivered the worst news anyone could imagine. Sir, the swarm isn't just winning. They're evolving. And they're using our own technology to do it. Marcus Webb received the report in silence, then turned to Rachel Morgan. Analysis? If the swarm is adapting human technology, they'll be stronger than ever. Strong enough to threaten us. Marcus looked out at the stars where the last alien worlds were dying in fire and acid. The galaxy was almost empty now, cleared of everyone except humans and the creatures that wanted to eat them. Signal all ships, Marcus said finally. Bring the fleet to full alert. The aliens are finished, but our war is just beginning. The breaking point had been reached. The galaxy belonged to the swarm now, and humans were next on the menu. In the ruins of the council chambers, 12 alien leaders sat in a circle of despair. The great blue room that had once housed representatives from 43 species now held only the survivors of the galaxy's greatest disaster. Most of the chairs were empty, their former occupants either dead or scattered to the far corners of space. Chancellor HFY looked around at what remained of galactic civilization. His crystal body was cracked from stress, throwing weak rainbows on the broken walls. How many worlds do we have left? 17, whispered Prime Minister Kithara. Her energy form flickered like a dying light bulb. Out of over 3,000. 17 worlds with maybe 2 billion people total. The numbers were crushing. In less than a year, the Void Swarm had consumed 99% of galactic civilization. Entire species had been wiped out completely. Others survived only as tiny groups hiding in the deepest parts of space. What about military forces? Asked Commander Theklan, his insect body bent with exhaustion. Gone, said old General Mordon. His tree-like form was losing leaves, a sign of extreme distress among his people. We have maybe 100 ships left that can still fight. The swarm has thousands. The silence in the room was heavy with shame and regret. Every alien leader there remembered the day they had voted to cast out humanity. They had been afraid of human strength, worried about human aggression, concerned about human unpredictability. Now they would have given anything to have those dangerous humans back. We have one option left, HFY said slowly. Complete surrender to the humans. No conditions, no negotiations, no pride left to save. The other leaders looked at each other. A year ago, the idea of surrendering to humans would have been unthinkable. Humans were the youngest species in the galaxy, barely out of their own solar system for a few centuries. But humans were also the only ones who had ever successfully fought the Void Swarm. What exactly are you proposing? Asked Kithara. We send a message to Earth. We admit we were wrong. We beg for forgiveness. We offer them control of everything that is left. And if they refuse? HFY looked out through the broken windows at a sky filled with swarm creatures. Then we die with whatever dignity we have left. The message they composed took 3 days to write. Every word was chosen carefully, every sentence crafted to show maximum humility and regret. To the human government of Earth, it began. We, the surviving members of the Galactic Council, come before you in complete surrender and absolute regret. We acknowledge that our decision to cast out humanity was the greatest mistake in galactic history. We accept full responsibility for the destruction that has followed. We beg your forgiveness and ask for your mercy. The message went on for pages. It offered humans complete control over what remained of galactic civilization. It promised that all surviving species would serve under human command. It admitted that humans had been right about everything, about the swarm, about galactic defense, about the need for strong military forces. Most importantly, it begged humans to come back. On Earth, President Helen Carter received the message in her office. She read it slowly, carefully, while Admiral Kate Sullivan and General Chris Patterson waited. They're offering us everything, Helen said finally. Everything that's left, Kate corrected, which isn't much. Helen looked out her window at Earth's peaceful blue sky. Her world was safe, protected by the most powerful military in the galaxy. Earth's cities were full of life, its people happy and prosperous. Meanwhile, the galaxy burned. What do you think? She asked her advisors. Strategically, we should help, Chris said. If the swarm finishes consuming the aliens, we'll be next. Better to have some allies, even weak ones, than face the swarm alone. But morally? Helen asked. Kate was quiet for a moment. They made their choice. They called us too dangerous for peace. They wanted us gone when we were protecting them. Why should we risk human lives to save people who threw us away? The debate continued for hours. Some argued that humans had a duty to help anyone fighting the swarm. Others said that the aliens deserved whatever happened to them. In the end, Helen decided to wait. 3 more weeks passed. The alien message sat unanswered while the swarm continued its work of consumption. More worlds fell. More species went extinct. The few remaining alien forces fought desperate holding actions that only delayed the inevitable. Then Captain Michelle Foster, commanding a patrol ship at the edge of the solar system, detected something unusual on her sensors. "Captain," her tactical officer said, "we have a single ship approaching from alien space. It's badly damaged, barely holding together." Michelle studied the readings. The ship was small, probably a diplomatic vessel. Its hull was cracked, its engines were failing, and it was leaking atmosphere. "Any weapons?" "None, Captain. It's completely defenseless. Communications. They're transmitting a message. Just 3 words over and over. Please help us." Michelle contacted Earth Command. Within minutes, she had Admiral Marcus Webb on the line. "Orders, sir?" Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Let them approach. But keep your weapons ready." The alien ship limped into the solar system like a wounded animal seeking shelter. It carried the last diplomatic representatives of galactic civilization, 12 aliens from 12 dying species. President Carter met with them in a small conference room on Luna Station. The aliens looked terrible. Their bodies showed the stress of months of horror and defeat. Some were injured, others were clearly sick. All were broken by what they had witnessed. Chancellor HFY spoke for all of them. His crystal body was so cracked that light barely passed through him anymore. "President Carter," he said in a voice like breaking glass, "we surrender, completely and unconditionally. We place ourselves and our people under human protection and human command. We ask nothing except for your mercy." Helen looked at these creatures who had once been the masters of the galaxy. A year ago, they had commanded fleets of thousands of ships. They had ruled over trillions of beings. They had been so powerful and so proud that they thought humans were a threat to galactic peace. Now they were begging for scraps of human compassion. "Why should we help you?" Helen asked quietly. "Because," HFY said, and his voice broke completely, "we were wrong. About everything. You tried to protect us and we threw you away. You warned us about the swarm and we ignored you. You offered us strength and we chose weakness instead." He paused, struggling to continue. "We called you dangerous. We said you were too aggressive, too unpredictable, too strong. We were afraid of what you might do with power. But we never stopped to think about what would happen without you." The other aliens nodded agreement. Some were crying if their species could cry. Others just stared at the floor in shame. "The galaxy is dead because of our fear," said Prime Minister Kethara. "Billions of innocents are gone because we were too proud to accept human leadership. We have learned the cost of our arrogance and it has crushed us." Helen looked around the table at these broken leaders. Part of her wanted to tell them it was too late, that they should have thought of this months ago. But another part of her remembered that humans had once been the underdogs, the weak ones asking for help. "If we help you," she said finally, "it will be on our terms. Complete human command of all military forces, human approval for all major decisions, human oversight of rebuilt governments. You will not be partners or equals. You will be subjects." "Yes," HFY said immediately. "Anything. Everything. We just want our people to survive. And if we succeed in stopping the swarm, the galaxy will be rebuilt under human leadership. Human values, human laws, human justice." "Yes," they all said together. Helen stood up and walked to the window. Outside she could see Earth in the distance, blue and beautiful and safe. Soon, human ships would leave that safety to fight for people who had cast them out. But that was what made humans different from these aliens. Humans fought for the weak even when the weak had betrayed them. "Admiral Webb," she said into her communicator, "prepare the fleet for deployment. We're going back to alien space." The relief on the alien faces was almost painful to watch. They had expected death and humans had offered them life instead. But it came with a price. The galaxy would never again doubt human strength, never again fear human power, and never again make the mistake of pushing humanity away when they needed human protection the most. The age of alien rule was over. The age of humanity had begun, and it had started with the crushing regret of those who had learned too late what they had thrown away.